بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه ثم أما بعد. To proceed, today, to be honest with you, I meant to talk to you about a particular verse from Surah Al-Nahl. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. Allah commands in this verse in Surah Al-Nahl, that's chapter number 16, verse number 90, my old issue. And this particular verse in Surah Al-Nahl, which is, this is the verse that I intended to talk to you about today. It is, إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. It is verse number 90 in Surah Al-Nahl, the chapter of the bees, number 16. And it is a beautiful verse. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said it is the most comprehensive verse in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this verse, Allah commands justice, ihsan, excellence. If you translate ihsan as excellence, you would never do ihsan, the word ihsan, justice, if you translate it as anything, but the closest would be excellence. Adl would be justice, ihsan would be excellence. وَإِيتَاءِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى, and liberality towards the kin. وَيَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ, and he forbids all shameful acts. Fahsha is all shameful acts, lewdness. وَيَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ. Al-munkar is basically a general word for every evil. All evil is munkar. Munkar is that which is rejected by the fitra, the natural inclination, the good fitra, the good inclination of human beings. Wal-baghi, which is aggression. يَعِظُكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ, He instructs you that you may remember. يَعِظُكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ, Allah instructs you that you may remember. However, I decided to not talk about this particular verse, although it's such a beautiful verse, when I remembered that today is the 17th of Ramadan. So, the night would be the night of the 18th, but the day itself is the 17th of Ramadan. So I felt a little bit uncomfortable overlooking the Battle of Badr on the 17th of Ramadan. Because the Battle of Badr, you know that it happened on the second year of the Hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ, and it happened on the 17th of Ramadan of the second year of the Hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ. And it is such an event in the history of Islam that it would not be appropriate to overlook it on the day in which it happened. The Battle of Badr, there's, if we just think about some, we'll have just a few stops with the Battle of Badr, with the Prophet ﷺ and the companions in this great battle that was called Al-Furqan, Ma'rakatul Furqan, which is the Battle of Al-Furqan, the distinction, the criterion, the distinction which is the separation between Al-Haqq wal-Batil, truth and falsehood. It is the battle that, secured the future of Islam by the will and permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after the immigration of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And to begin with, when we just say the Battle of Badr, some people start to become uncomfortable because people don't want to hear anything about war or battles or anything of that nature. And it is true, not all of you, but some people start to become uncomfortable when we talk about jihad, when we talk about the Battle of Badr or the battles of the Prophet ﷺ. So they're like, well, did the Prophet really go to war? And you may, growing up in a Muslim country, you would probably know better, but, for some people that are unfamiliar with the seerah and that particularly immersed in all of our apologetic preaching, they sometimes get surprised. Yes, there was war, and I would just like to say to those people that there has not been a nation in the history of humanity that did not value value the concepts of valor, bravery, courage, sacrifice, heroism, basically martyrdom, is valued in every nation. Where do people attain martyrdom? So the issue is not about war versus no war, because there is no nation in the world that was not involved in war. Pacifism is basically a concept that cannot have a place in reality. Why is it? And why is pacifism a very negative concept? Despite the fact that it may look alluring, it's a very negative concept. No nation in the world could survive on pacifism. Basically, you allow people to trample over you, you allow people to do everything to you, you don't defend your honor, you don't defend your property, you don't defend your land, you don't defend your life, and just allow people to just trample over you left and right. Which nation in the history of humanity preached that pacifism and survived? It's impossible. It is just, absolutely impossible.
قرب بس المايك الناس مش سامعة.
رد ازاي تاني؟
هو كده كويس الناس كده سامعة.
Were you able to hear me before? Somewhat? Okay, well, we can't get any closer. Otherwise I'll choke. So no nation ever preached the concept of the pacifism and survived. Philosophically, in addition to the history, but philosophically, pacifism is faulty philosophically, because if the truth is disarmed, will falsehood get disarmed? Will falsehood give up the use of force? Falsehood, will it ever give up the use of force? No. So if the truth disarms itself in the face of falsehood, which will never shy away from using force to enforce, or to basically triumph or prevail, falsehood wants to prevail. If falsehood uses intellectual, chooses an intellectual confrontation, then choosing an armed confrontation would be wrong, because إن الله يحب الرفق في كل شيء. Allah likes gentleness in everything. So to basically respond to an intellectual discourse by armed force, that is not rifq, that is not gentleness. But if you respond to armed, attack by intellectual, defense, does this work? Oh, it doesn't. It doesn't. You want to try it, and come and meet me afterwards. So that is. Therefore, the idea itself of the use of force, the idea is a noble idea when that force is justified. So the crux of the matter is what? Is not the use of force versus the no force. It is justification. Is it justifiable? Was the use of force justifiable? Here in the United States of America, where many Muslims are made to basically feel uncomfortable about the concept of Islamic jihad and so on. The United States of America has been involved in wars for more than 2/3 of the history. For more than 2/3 of the history of the United States. And I'm not saying this is bad or wrong, or bad or good, or anything. I'm just saying that force was used for over 2/3 of the history. There was rarely a period of time where the United States was not at war somewhere nearby, far away, But that, if you go back to the history and read it, and this was under Republicans and Democrats and everybody. It's just, so it is not basically limited to one group or this or that. So the use of force per se is not to be condemned, and it is not to be praised until we hear about the justification. Was it justified or not? For the Muslims, the use of force was a test, a trial from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Particularly when you engage in war outnumbered by the enemy. You're being tested. It is not like you're going for, basically when you have the upper hand and you use force to prevail and to occupy and to invade. You may think all things about this. You may think that those people are that they're greedy, they are just cruel, they are this or that. But when you have 313 people with only 2 horses being asked to confront more than 1,000 of their enemies, well prepared, well armed, with 100 horses. Are the people who respond to this invitation greedy people who want, the spoils of war? Because by any means, use any form of calculations, that's a lost war. That's a lost encounter. That's a lost battle. You're asking 313 people that have 2 horses to confront about more than 1,000 people with 100 horses. And the 1,000 people are basically the cream of the crop of the fighters of Quraysh. The cream of the crop of the fighters of Quraysh. Quraysh went out with all of, the sanadid of Quraysh, or the heroes of Quraysh. Utbah ibn Shayba ibn al-Rabi'a, al-Walid ibn Utbah, Abu Jahl, Abu al-Bakhtari, all of the sanadid of Quraysh have gone out to this war. And then the Muslims are being invited to confront this army that is 3 times their number and many, many times their power. Because it's not just about numbers. When you say 2 horses, against 100 horses, that is 50 times the power. So then this invitation was a test for the believers, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to try them out. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al Haj, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ عَلَى حَرْفٍ فَإِنْ أَصَابَهُ خَيْرٌ اطْمَأَنَّ بِهِ وَإِنْ أَصَابَتْهُ فِتْنَةٌ انقلب على وجهه خسر الدنيا والآخرة ذلك هو الخسران المبين. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ عَلَى حَرْفٍ, and of the people are those who worship Allah on the very edge, on an edge. فَإِنْ أَصَابَهُ خَيْرٌ اطْمَأَنَّ بِهِ, when good befalls him, when Islam basically asks you to sacrifice none, or asks you to not do anything beyond your liking or desires, or that is counter to your preferences or your desires. A lot of people will be nice Muslims, because if it is all about coming to the masjid, and it is all about even praying and fasting, that's fine. A lot of people do like meditation, and a lot of people fast for health reasons, and a lot of people do a lot of things. So when it is all about these things, a lot of people could do this stuff. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ عَلَى حَرْفٍ, they worship Allah on the edge. But when Islam starts to ask you to sacrifice, don't do this because it is haram. Don't do this job because it is haram. Don't earn this money because it is haram. Don't, emigrate for the cause of Allah. Or when 313 people are asked to confront more than 1,000 people with 100 horses, 100 horses, that is, to see are you worshiping Allah on the edge or not? وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ عَلَى حَرْفٍ فَإِنْ أَصَابَهُ خَيْرٌ, when good befalls him, اطْمَأَنَّ بِهِ, he's content. He's a content Muslim. He's like a happy Muslim, content. All we talk about is Jannah, and all we talk about is good stuff, and that's it. No one is being asked to surrender to Allah. So even if there is, if sacrifice is needed, you will sacrifice to surrender, tuslim, submit, surrender. Oftentimes we don't do this when the sacrifice that we're asked to make pertains to money, pertains to wealth, pertains to property, pertains to a job, pertains to like a business transaction. We don't even, we're not even comfortable making this sacrifice. Those people were asked to sacrifice their lives. وَإِنْ أَصَابَتْهُ فِتْنَةٌ انْقَلَبَ عَلَى وَجْهِهِ, and if otherwise bad befalls him, he turns back he turns back on his face, meaning he turns backwards, meaning he goes away from Islam, he leaves Islam, he rejects, he refuses to submit. انقلب على وجهه خسر الدنيا والآخرة. Certainly those are the ones who lose the dunya and the akhirah, this life and the hereafter. ذلك هو الخسران المبين. This is the true loss. So the first lesson that we have learned from Badr, from the is the sacrifice of the Sahaba radhiyallahu alayhim. When Sa'd ibn Mu'adh stands before the Prophet ﷺ and tells him, فوالله إن استعرضت بنا هذا البحر فخطه لخضناه معك ما تخلف منا رجل واحد. By Allah, he was asking, the Prophet ﷺ consulted the Sahaba, wanted to hear from the Sahaba, and then Abu Bakr spoke, and Umar spoke, and Miqdad spoke, and the Prophet that wanted to hear from the Ansar, because those are the Muhajirin. They have already shown that they are people of sacrifice. They left everything behind in Mecca, and they sacrificed everything. So, and the Prophet also wanted to hear from the Ansar, because they are the ones, they are the hosts of the new Muslim state in their own city, Al-Medina. So Sa'd ibn Mu'adh stands up and says to him, by Allah, if you attempt to cross this sea, we will cross it with you. Keep in mind, we're not talking about ships here. If you just walk through it, we'll walk behind you. Not a single man of us will stay behind. Not a single man of us will stay behind. These are the Sahaba of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But it is amazing that after the war, some of the Sahaba disagreed over the spoils. Do you know that? After Badr, this basically pinnacle of heroism, pinnacle of valor, pinnacle of sacrifice, pinnacle of selflessness. These are not people that fought to prevail. Those are people that fought an army that was many, many times their size, and they sacrificed just out of submission to Allah. And then at the end of the war, Allah granted them victory. And then after all of this, some of them disagreed over the spoils of war, and Surah Al-Anfal was revealed. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْأَنفَالِ, they ask you about the spoils of war. قُلِ الْأَنفَالُ لِلَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ, say the spoils of war belong to Allah and His Messenger. It was taken away from them. Your fight is not for this. You were fighting for the cause of Allah. If Allah grants you some of the spoils, be thankful. But if Allah tells you none, of the spoils is yours, you should still be content, because you're fighting to obey Allah, you're fighting to give victory to the truth and to support the Prophet and the ministry of the Prophet ﷺ. You're not fighting for the spoils, they are not yours. None is yours. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْأَنْفَالِ قُلِ الْأَنْفَالُ لِلَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهِ They ask you about the unfelt discourse of war, say all of them are for Allah and His Messenger, so fear Allah, وَأَصْلِحُوا ذَاتَ بَيْنِكُمْ. And أَصْلِحُوا ذَاتَ بَيْنِكُمْ, adjust, settle, adjust, fix, rectify all matters between you. That disharmony, that friction, that discord that was about to happen between you, the Prophet ﷺ described this discord to be what? فإن فساد ذات البين هي الحالقة لا أقول تحلق الدين ولكن تحلق الشعر ولكن تحلق الدين. Tirmidhi reported that the Prophet ﷺ said, for discord between the believers is the razor. The razor that does not shave the hair, but it shaves the deen, shaves your religion or your religious commitment. So Allah said to them, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ, fear Allah, وَأَصْلِحُوا ذَاتَ بَيْنِكُمْ وَأَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ, and obey Allah and His Messenger if you're true believers. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَجِلَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ. The true believers are those whose hearts tremble, whose hearts show humility and fear when Allah is mentioned. When Allah is mentioned, as if Allah is teaching us that this journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the journey of the heart to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a very long journey. Very, very long journey. You know, for the heart to reach the level of ihsan and tuma'nina and contentment and to be close to Allah and to reach that level of perfection, it's a very long journey. Because after, jihad, and this type of jihad in particular, Badr, the show of sacrifice and valor in Badr is amazing, unparalleled. So this type of jihad in particular is the pinnacle of Islam. The Prophet told us, well, jihad dhirwatu sanamihi, and jihad is its pinnacle, because now you're showing, what shaheed means. The word shaheed comes from shahida. What is shahida? Testify. So what is the relationship between martyrdom and testimony? It is said that shaheed testifies from his blood, testifies. It's a different type of testimony. The testimony of faith, or the declaration of faith that you make with your tongue, is a testimony of faith. That is basically the gate to Islam. But that type of testimony is the ultimate testimony. Now you're testifying from your blood, your life, that there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is His Messenger. That I am willing to die for the cause. And that is the highest testimony. But after jihad, which is after they were involved in jihad, which is the pinnacle, and Badr being the pinnacle of the pinnacle, Allah is telling them that there is still a long journey for the heart. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, Allah is teaching, is instructing them in faith. And Allah is telling them how to attain more and more faith, and how to walk on this path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as if the journey is just beginning. The journey is just beginning. So all of the acts of the exterior should not basically delude us away from the fact that if the heart is not fixed, then we're still too far away, because we could straighten out our exterior even without showing off between you and yourself. You still could try to fix your exterior, but if the heart is still not aligned with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not aligned with the divine, the path is still ahead of you, and the journey is still a long one before you get to your goal, to your objective. Allah tells us, يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ, on the day when neither wealth nor progeny or offspring will be of any benefit except the one who will benefit is one who comes to Allah, returns to Allah with a heart that is sound, with a heart that is sound. So that was one lesson we learned from the Battle of Badr. Just the first lesson. And certainly there are so many lessons. But in the next 4 minutes, let me choose one of them. Okay, so inshallah we will have still, after the 4 rakahs of Taraweeh, we will continue with the Battle of Badr. But if we choose one more lesson, or should we stop? Huh? Okay. خلاص نستop. Inshallah after the 4 rakahs we'll go over lesson number 2. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك. بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. ثم أما بعد.
الصوت بيسكتهم وبيسمعوا.
نعم. ثم أما بعد. The second lesson from Ghazwat Badr. Certainly there are so many lessons, but we recited Surah Ibrahim in the last 2 rakahs. We were reciting Surah Ibrahim. And Surah Ibrahim reminds us of a lesson from Ghazwat Badr that is a very important lesson. That lesson is that if you rely on someone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or obey someone other than Allah, Allah will leave you for that person or being that you relied on. And Allah will ensure that you will be let down by that very being that you relied on. That you will be let down by this very being that you relied on other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in Ghazwat Badr, when Abu Sufyan was able to take a different route and evade the Muslim army, and then he sent the news to Quraysh that I am safe, don't worry about it, you don't have to come out to fight the Prophet ﷺ and his companions. Abu Sufyan told them, I was able to make it, you don't need to come out. So then the Quraysh was already prepared, and they had like 1,300 people fully armed and prepared, and they were already dispatched. So they stopped, what should we do now? Should we go out, or should we, now there is no reason to go out. Abu Sufyan is safe, and everybody in his company is safe. So they said, let's stay around. Some of them said, let's stay around, particularly Akhnas ibn Shurayh, who was the chief of Bani Zuhra. He said that I will stay around, and he took his people and went back to Mecca and decided not to go to war. But then the shaitan came to them, and he, as we recite in Surah Al-Anfal, we recite this verse, وَإِذْ زَيَّنَ لَهُمُ الشَّيْطَانُ أَعْمَالَهُمْ وَقَالَ لَا غَالِبَ لَكُمُ الْيَوْمَ مِنَ النَّاسِ وَإِنِّي جَارٌ لَكُمْ فَلَمَّا تَرَأَتِ الْفِئَتَانِ نَكَصَ عَلَى عَقِبَيْهِ وَقَالَ إِنِّي بَرِيءٌ مِنْكُمْ إِنِّي أَرَى مَا لَا تَرَوْنَ إِنِّي أَخَافُ اللَّهَ وَاللَّهُ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ. So remember when the shaitan made their affairs or their deeds look beautiful to them, made their deeds look fair and beautiful to them. زين لهم الشيطان أعمالهم وقال لا غالب لكم اليوم من الناس, and he said no one will be able to overpower you of the people. وإني جار لكم, and I will protect you. Now the shaitan himself did not come to them and say I'll protect you, but the shaitan basically inferred, hinted to, or whispered into the other people to come out and to tell Quraysh, we will protect you. Quraysh started to fear from Banu Bakr. So Suraqa ibn Malik came out and said, one of the people that came out and said to Quraysh, we will have your back. We will cover you. We will have your back. Don't worry about it. That is being basically tempted by the shaitan to do this, so that he would tempt Quraysh to proceed and to go out and to fight the Prophet ﷺ and his companions. The shaitan does not have encompassing knowledge. The shaitan, like everybody else, it's like a game of guessing here. It's like 1,000 people. These are 313 people. Let us basically encourage them to go out. Maybe they'll be able to wipe out the Prophet ﷺ and the companions and the community of the believers. So the shaitan, don't think that he has encompassing knowledge. He also has this guessing game. No one has encompassing knowledge but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah let the shaitan do this. Allah let the shaitan convince Suraka and others to go out and to tell them, we will have your back, don't worry, proceed. وَإِذْ زَيَّنَ لَهُمُ الشَّيْطَانُ أَعْمَالَهُمْ وَقَالَ لَا غَالِبَ لَكُمُ الْيَوْمَ مِنَ النَّاسِ. He could have directly whispered into their minds, لَا غَالِبَ لَكُمْ مِنَ النَّاسِ. You will not be overpowered by any of the people today, by any nation today. Because they felt very good about their numbers and their armaments and preparation. Everything was good and in order. لا غالب لكم اليوم من الناس. He deluded them away. And then he convinced them indirectly also through other people that we will have your back, we will cover you, Banu Bakr will not be able to attack you from the back, proceed. And Abu Jahl came out and he started to further encourage them to proceed. فلما تراءت الفئتان, so when the two armies, when the two groups encountered one another, faced one another, نكص على عقبيه, he turned back on his heels. He ran away. The shaitan ran away. وقال إني بريء منكم. He said, I'm clear of you. I have nothing to do with you. I'm clear of you. Because he, at that time, started to see the angels coming down, in large groups, 1,000 مردفين in succession. استغيثون ربكم فاستجاب لكم أني ممدكم بألف من الملائكة مردفين. So he started to see the angels coming in succession, 1,000 angels coming in succession, and he said that this is a lost war, that the kuffar will lose it. So he ran away and he said, I'm clear of you. إِنِّي بَرِيءٌ مِّنكُمْ إِنِّي أَرَى مَا لَا تَرَوْا. I see that which you don't see. I see what you see not. The angels. إِنِّي أَخَافُ اللَّهِ. I fear Allah. وَاللَّهُ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ. Allah is severe in torment. That is what the shaitan did to them. Keep in mind that we said that the angels came 1,000. Allah supported them with 1,000 of the angels, multitude in succession. But the next verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَمَا جَعَلَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بُشْرًا وَلِتَطْمَئِنَّ بِهِ قُلُوبُكُمْ وَمَا النَّصْرُ إِلَّا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. Allah made this only a glad tidings. Because human beings want tangibility. Human beings want, they can't live off of abstract meanings. They want something tangible. So Allah said to them, to strengthen their hearts, I will send you 1,000 angels. And Allah sent the angels. But Allah is telling them, I did not need to send the angels to give you victory. I could have given you victory without the angels. وَمَا جَعَلَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بُشْرًا لَكُمْ. It was only glad tidings for you that I sent the angels to support you. إِلَّا بُشْرًا وَلِتَطْمَئِنَّ بِهِ قُلُوبُكُمْ. And so that your hearts are content. If you feel that the angels are surrounding you, your hearts will be content. وَمَا النَّصْرُ إِلَّا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. But victory only comes from Allah. It does not come from the angels. I don't need the angels to give you victory. In Allah Azizun Hakim. But then go back to the shaitan. The shaitan convinced them, and then once he saw the events, basically moving in the wrong direction for him, he ran away and he said, I see what you see not, I fear Allah. So the shaitan let them down, directly and indirectly, through the lies that the lies that the shaitan whispered into their heads to convince Quraysh to proceed, go out, we'll support you, we will have your back. The lies let them down, the shaitan let them down, And likewise, anyone who relies on someone other than Allah or obeys someone other than Allah, he will be let down first by that very one that he relied on other than Allah or that he obeyed against Allah's commands. The verses that we read in Surah Ibrahim that basically concur with this meaning is when the Shaykh recited وبرزوا لله جميعا فقال الضعفاء للذين استكبروا إنا كنا لكم تبعا فهل أنتم مغنون عنا من عذاب الله من شيء قالوا لو هدانا الله لهديناكم سواء علينا أجزعنا أم صبرنا ما لنا من محيص. And then the wrongdoers on the day of judgment will be let down by everybody, by everyone. The du'afa, the weak, would say to those الذين استكبروا, the mighty and strong, those who were, leaders and in their of their people and so on. The du'afa, the weak and feeble-minded, the followers, that always listen to falsehood, that always listen to false speech, that takes them away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will go to the mighty leaders and say to them, we were your followers, إِنَّا كُنَّا لَكُمْ تَبَعًا فَهَلْ أَنْتُمْ مُغْنُونَ عَنَّا مِنْ عَذَابِ اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. Will you be able to spare us any of the torment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? قَالُوا لَوْ هَدَانَ اللَّهُ لَهَدَيْنَاكُمْ. Those mighty leaders would say, had Allah guided us, we would have guided you. But Allah did not guide us, so we misguided you. سواء علينا أجزعنا أم صبرنا. Whether it is all the same for us, whether we are, patient or calm or anxious. ما لنا من محيص. There is no escape. There is no way out. There is no way out for us. Then the shaitan will come in, because you will be looking, people that, wrongdoers will be looking on the day of judgment for anyone to hang their mistakes on, so they go to the leaders and then finally they go to the shaitan. Well, then the shaitan will stand before them, and you see, this is the greatest hasra, the greatest regret, the greatest pain. When the shaitan himself that got you into all of this trouble stands up before you to preach to you. This is the last khutbah of the shaitan. This is the last speech of the shaitan, the last khutbah of the shaitan to his followers. He will now be preaching to them. وقال الشيطان لما قضي الأمر إن الله وعدكم وعد الحق ووعدتكم فأخلفتكم. And the shaitan will say, when the matter has been completely settled, and the hisab and everything at the day of judgment, the shaitan will say, when the matter has been completely settled, إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَعَدَكُمْ وَعَدَ الْحَقِّ. Allah had promised you a promise of truth. وَوَعَدْتُكُمْ فَأَخْلَفْتُكُمْ. And I promised you. And I betrayed you. وَمَا كَانَ لِي عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْ سُلْطَانٍ. And I had no power over you. إِلَّا أَنْ دَعَوْتُكُمْ فَاسْتَجَبْتُمْ لِي. Except that I invited you and you responded. I did not have power over you. Allah did not give the shaitan power over us. إِنَّ عِبَادِي لَيْسَ لَكَ عَلَيْهِمْ سُلْطَانٍ. My servants, you will have no power over them. وَمَا كَانَ لِي عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْ سُلْطَانٍ. I did not have power over you. وَمَا كَانَ لِي عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْ سُلْطَانٍ إِلَّا أَنْ دَعَوْتُكُمْ فَاسْتَجَبْتُمْ لِي. Except that I invited you and you responded. You rushed to my invitation. فلا تلوموني ولوموا أنفسكم ما أنا بمصرخكم وما أنتم بمصرخي. فلا تلوموني, don't blame me. ولوموا أنفسكم, only blame yourselves. ما أنا بمصرخكم, I will not be able to save you. Today I will not be able to save you. وما أنتم بمصرخي, nor will you be able to save me. إني كفرت بما أشركتموني من قبل. I disavow your shirk. I disavow your taking me as a partner with Allah. How did we take him as a partner with Allah? Or how did they take him as a partner with Allah? By obeying him against the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنِّي كَفَرْتُ بِمَا أَشْرَكْتُمُونِي مِنْ قَبْلِ. And the shaitan would disavow his followers. إِنَّ الظَّالِمِينَ لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. Verily for the zalimeen there is a great torment awaiting them. So we still have time, we still have room, and we still have time, we still have an opportunity, we still have a chance to disobey the shaitan and to basically favor nothing over our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to disobey the leaders that tempt us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to disobey the college professor that teaches us what is counter to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to disobey even the parent that wants to lead us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to disobey any and every one that is attempting to take us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Otherwise, they will let us down on the Day of Judgment, and they will disavow us on the Day of Judgment. It is your chance to disavow them before they disavow you. It is a chance to be clear of them before they are clear of you. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. علينا بذنوبنا وإياك واغفر وارحمنا. اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا. ربنا اعف عنا يا كريم. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين.